Terrence Cooper.
Jeffrey.
Terrence Cooper, or the person identified as Terrence Cooper. Okay, on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Devin Frazier, 24-02676, council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. APA Burt Buxton on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan.
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Stephen Feigelson on behalf of Devin Frazier, who's appearing by way of video conference from Zoom this morning, Your Honor. Or
Okay,
from Zales, too.
thank you. Today's the date and the time that was scheduled for a probable cause conference. My understanding is there is going to be a petition for competency.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay,
We have two other cases that was sent to the forensic center. I believe they already had interviewed Mr. Frazier last week in another file.
yeah, I see a forensic center evaluation checklist in this file. I submitted it back on September 26th.
I did, Your Honor.
That's in the file. I believe Judge Ward has or should have reviewed it. If not, she'll sign it when she returns. I'll note here in the file that this defendant will be evaluated for competency, and so the next scheduled date, if there was one. I'm not sure why this was set for PCC at this.
Because he failed to appear at the probable cause conference, so there was a warrant issue. Judge didn't want to sign the warrant until he was available.
Okay, so he was originally scheduled on the 26th, it looks like.
Correct.
Okay, so then he has an exam that's currently scheduled for October 24th, and so that won't proceed. We'll have it set for a review.
Judge, one thing I'd ask is there's a review hearing in the other matter in front of Judge Ward set for Tuesday morning. I'd like this case on for that time as well.
Tuesday, this coming Tuesday,
yes.
there was a report.
No, there's not a report, but I believe the court set that for review hearing for the 22nd. Is that correct, James?
So it's set for Tuesday on all the files.
Yep.
When was that set for that date?
I do not know off the top of my head, Judge, but I can go get the files.
No, that's not necessary. I'm just trying to understand what.
August 13th.
Okay, so what's the purpose of setting this for a review for that date?
Well, we have some issues with regards to bond that I want to address with all matters in that day.
I'll note here, set for review to address bond. It said October
22nd at 10.
22nd at 10. Okay, you'll see Judge Ward October 22nd at 10 o'clock.
I think you guys.
No problem. You're all set for today, Mr. Frazier.
Can I speak to my lawyer? Oh,
Want to speak?
Mr. Frazier, I'll set up a polycom with you and I'll chat with you later this week.
What's my bond?
He's gonna address your bond on Tuesday before Judge Ward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hydrants is down here. We have the hydrants on our documents.
Okay, fail to appear.
And I believe it's starts is ready under Sean Thompson.
I don't even understand.
On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Deshaun Thomas, or Thompson, that is 24-02968.
Good morning, Your Honor. APA Bart Buxton on behalf of the people, state of Michigan.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jacob Stars, the fourth assistant public defender, appearing on behalf of Mr. Thompson. I'm appearing in person this morning, and Mr. Thompson is here by Zoom. We're scheduled for a probable cause conference this morning. Thank you.
Okay, this is a probable cause conference that was scheduled for Judge Cynthia Ward on one count of home invasion, first degree, assault with a dangerous weapon, 2 counts. It's scheduled for an exam on the 24th before Judge Ward at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you're continuing to examine, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Mr. Thompson had expressed interest in potentially retaining an attorney. That's fine. That's his right. Mr. Thompson, just make sure you get the substitution of counsel as soon as possible, if that's your plan. But as long as I remain as Mr. Thompson's attorney, we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to proceed next week with this preliminary examination.
Okay, very good. Mr. Thompson, do you have any questions for the court today?
I was gonna ask about my tether that they have me on, and I had a lot of work I had to do, and I literally does things with Terrence Cooper with his program, and the tether makes me like look like foolish and all that when I go there. So I was just wondering, could I get that off? Because I'm not a flight risk.
I don't even know who Terrence Cooper is. Who is Terrence Cooper?
Terrence Cooper, I believe, Your Honor, is one of the family members of the victims in this case.
I'm not following. He said he does a lot of things with Terrence Cooper. I'm not. Terrence Cooper is in my waiting room. He appeared earlier. I asked him to start his video. He didn't, so I removed him. And he's now in my waiting room. He'll remain in my waiting room though. I don't know why he's in my virtual courtroom anyways.
My apologies, Your Honor. It's my understanding this is employment related.
I'm sorry?
Employment related, correct, Mr. Thompson, that you're concerned about how the tether appears in terms of your employment? In terms of your job?
So he's employed by a family member of the victim is what you're saying?
I'm not entirely sure if that is the case, Your Honor. I just know that the victim's last names are Cooper.
I do see that. And there is a Terrence Cooper in my waiting room. Again, he appeared earlier, but didn't start his video. But Mr. Thompson said he does a lot of things with Terrence Cooper. I don't understand what that means.
People ready. This is a program I'm in with Cooper. This is not the Coopers I'm going through with right now with this case. This is literally a
no relation.
program
You're saying
that
there's
I've
no
been doing for a few months.
okay, so Terrence Cooper is no relation to Michaela and Linda Cooper, is what you're saying.
No, ma'am.
I don't know what you say you're doing a lot of things. What kind of things are you talking about?
I'm working with him like inside of his community he got, like with children and other things.
Okay, well, I'm not going to address this. I'm not going to address your bond. If you want your bond conditions changed, you'll make that motion before Judge Ward, okay?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You'll see her next week in person and you can address the tether at that time, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Any additional matters for the record?
Yeah, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, you're all set. Thank you.
Was that all for this case today?
That's all you have for today, sir.
Okay.
Next day.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson,
Okay,
feel free to
thank
call me
you.
and get you caught up.
Your attorney said feel free to call him so that you can talk.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a great morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. On the record, in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Aaron Masso, 24-02633, council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. APA Burt Buxton on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan.
Good morning, Your Honor. Stephen Milks. I am standing in for attorney of record, Mr. Palmer, here for Mr. Musso.
Also present from the Ingham County Jail by Polycom. Today was the date of the probable cause conference. The matter is scheduled for preliminary examination before Judge Cynthia Ward, October 24th at 8:30. And you're continuing to your exam?
That is my understanding, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, any additional matters that need to be addressed on the record today?
Not from the people, Your Honor.
Nor the defense. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Musso, you'll see Judge Ward in person next week, okay?
Okay.
All right, you're all set.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Judge?
No problem.
That's it. I'm done. I go and leave now, or?
Yep, you're free to go.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
one video off of evidence.com. It's the Wi-Fi is taking forever to download it. As an exhibit. That's okay.
I don't know.
Figured you might not care.
I
but
really
just
don't
wanted
care how
to
you
put it
play
out
your
there.
exhibits.
Just wanted to put it out there, Your Honor.
Whatever works for you.
I also have some flash drives that have multiple exhibits on it. If that's okay.
Sounds good.
Fortunately, you're gonna be stuck with me for a little bit longer, it seems, Judge.
You said what?
You're stuck with me a little bit longer, it sounds.
Why?
He
Pass the
passed the
bar.
bar.
What? They let you into the bar? No, I'm saying, congratulations. Congratulations.
Crazy to see what they let in here. Used to think that this was a prestigious club and then they let me in.
Good job, good job.
I did hear from Mr. Ring. Not good news.
I'm sorry.
There's your updates.
Well, there's that. Yeah, we were doing a little LT yesterday with one of the attorneys said. My results is out.
Mhm. I didn't even know. I had a friend text me at like 4 after our trial yesterday.
Oh, really?
And just said, hey,
Check
have you
your
looked
email?
yet? I was like, huh? No, haven't looked. So. I apparently have to do that, the Michigan component thing. So it's something it's like a 12-hour CLE online, basically. And I have to do that before they'll give me my official UB.
Interesting.
But the state bar has confirmed I passed. It's just,
Oh,
I won't know
got it.
my actual score until I do that.
Got it. Okay,
Thank you, Judge.
thank you. On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Justin Holland, 24-02199. Can I have your appearances, please?
Morning, Your Honor. Case not hearing, appearing on behalf of the people, person of promotion practice under Michigan Court Rule number 8.120.
Motion is granted. Only got a couple more time to do that for you.
No,
And Attorney Luke Goodrich from the Public Defender's Office here to represent Mr. Holland, who is standing to my right today.
Thank you. Today was the date and the time that was scheduled for a preliminary examination, and my understanding is that we're ready to proceed.
yes, Your Honor.
That is correct.
Any matters we should address before calling witnesses?
Your Honor, I actually haven't had a chance to speak with Mr. Goodrich about my 2 exhibits, but I plan to admit I didn't have.
We're not necessarily stipulating it, but
Fair
I
enough.
think it'll be.
Fair enough. Your Honor, we're ready to proceed. I am gonna go check which witness is here. Officer Merlick is getting called right back up.
Sounds good. You can have a seat.
So, for the record, Your Honor, this is Officer Ethan Merlick.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
Have a seat. State your first and last name and spell both.
First name is Ethan, it's spelled E-T-H-A-N. My last name is Merlick, it's spelled N as in Mary. U-R-L-I-C-K.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Officer Merlick. Thank you for being here. Are you currently employed?
And
Where?
Lansing City Police Department,
How long have you been employed with the Lansing City Police Department?
year 11.
Okay, what was your current rank and assignment?
I'm currently assigned to road patrol as a police officer.
Have you been in that same role for the entire 11 years you've been at LPD?
Yes, sir.
What are your general duties as a road patrol officer?
General duties are to respond to 911 calls for service.
When you respond to a call for service, what exactly does that mean? Someone who's not a cop?
If someone calls in their 911 or the non-emergency line, the dispatch will generate a call for service. They'll dispatch that to a district officer or available officer. The officer will respond to that scene, make contact with hopefully the reporting person. If there is no reporting person, then it's a general check area, and then they remain in the area until we come in contact with someone that might need the help of the police or the medics.
On the date of July 24th, 2024, were you employed in that same capacity?
Yes, sir.
At some point, were you dispatched to a call that ended up being at the location of 1225 West Michigan Avenue,
Yes, sir.
City of Lansing,
Correct.
Hingham County,
State of Michigan. Yes,
State of Michigan? Okay, there you go. You finished it for me. Now, I say, were you at some point dispatched to a call that ended up there? Because my question is, did you start with this call somewhere else?
Yes, sir.
Where?
I was in the 1100 block of Allegan. damage to property report call for service.
Who, if anyone, was suspected of damaging this property? Was it related to this case?
Unrelated.
Okay, so you were responding to this damaged property call on West Allegan, and then what happened?
Once I finished up making contact with the person that had the property damage, there was a subject on a pedal bike riding up and down the street, and I could hear some sort of argument or commotion.
Do you know
coming
who
from the
that?
street.
Do you know who that subject is?
Yes, sir.
How do you know that?
I can see him right here on my left.
Have you ever interacted with him prior to this incident?
Yes, sir.
So you can see him in court here today to your left. Could you please identify him by our article of clothing he's wearing?
White button-up shirt with blue teal plaid.
And who is that person? What's their name?
Justin Holland.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
No objection, Your Honor.
Identification is noted.
All right, so you finish responding to this destruction of property call, and then all of a sudden, the defendant rolls up on a bike yelling at somebody. Do I have that right?
That's right.
What happens after that? Or can you hear what he's saying, I guess?
I can't hear exactly what he's saying. My windows were up. When I heard the commotion, I rolled them down and I could just hear the words. There's nothing specific.
What, if anything, was he wearing that stuck out?
He had large, like bulky looking clothing on. I remember there being another like white and blue plaid shirt. And then when I was closer to him, I saw that he had like a black, it'd be to me a tactical carrier. It's got straps in the front to hold other gear and other pouches and things.
Are you talking like a bulletproof vest, or what?
It would look similar to one, yeah.
Okay, similar to one that officers might wear while they're on duty?
Yeah, similar to one that I was wearing.
So he's got this vest on, and where are you when this happens?
We're in the 1100 block of Allegan.
So
I get out of my vehicle, so we're standing in the middle of the street. At our first time contact.
and that's on the west block of Allegan.
Correct.
So he's got the vest on the west block of Allegan, and eventually we make our way over to Michigan Avenue. Did you go to Michigan Avenue?
I responded to Michigan. Yes, sir.
Did you, what happened with your initial interaction? Did he comply with you? What happened?
He was not very compliant. I just asked him to leave the general area because he was just disrupting the general public. I had two other females say he's been riding past, harassing them. There was people on the sidewalk that were upset with his demeanor. He was yelled at a child that was on the sidewalk. I spoke with him once. I asked him to move along. He didn't want to, so I just let him vent. He rolled off. And as I got back to my car, he rode back towards me again. And same general demeanor, just didn't want to really comply. So I just let him ride off. He rode off, and I parked at the corner and waited to make sure he left the area. He left the area.
At any point, did you put out a call to other officers about this subject?
Yes, sir.
What did you do that?
I described him because I was under the impression that we were going to continue to have issues just by his demeanor and him remaining in the general area.
So was he under arrest at this point? What's going on?
He was not under arrest. Nope, he was free to leave. He was not part of my call for service. He just seemed upset and a little unruly. So I just let him pedal off.
So would it be fair to say at this point, you basically just tell him to go away and then he gets kind of angry about it?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you put out call to the other officers after this interaction, then what happens?
Other officers said that he matched the description of someone they were having to locate. In reference to, it might have been a trespass call. But the officers also advised that he had warrants out for his arrest.
Do you know who that other officer was?
I do not recall.
We'll have other officers testify. You said that something about a warrant out for arrest. Did you check this? Do you know if there was a valid active warrant?
Yes, sir. I had the officer put that subject's name into our call for service, and I was able to run him the name and see if there was an active warrant.
And who was that subject's name again? Just so we're clear.
Justin Holland.
Okay. So after you get this update that this individual matches the description of someone who has an active warrant out, what do you do?
I began searching the general area. It wasn't but a couple minutes, so I assumed he was still riding in the general area.
Were you the first one to make contact with him at the location of 1225 West Michigan Avenue, or was that someone else?
Someone else.
Who was that? Do you know?
That was Officer Pellegrino.
Did you assist at all in searching or recovering anything from this person?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
Upon my arrival, the subject was already in handcuffs. We began searching him so he could be transported to the jail.
Did you recover anything as a part of this search with other officers?
Yes, sir.
What did you recover?
The first piece we recovered was a folding sickle, is the best way I can describe it.
What's a sickle?
Sickle is like a curved blade. It's edged on one side, flat on the other. Normally used for farming in a sense.
Did it appear that he was anywhere near a farm on 1225 West Michigan Avenue?
No, sir.
Any crops to cut down near that area?
Not that I'm sorry.
Okay. Where was this folding sickle, you called it? Where was that found?
It was in its compact position. It was folded up inside a little holster.
A little holster.
Yeah, like a nylon holster that was attached to the that black carrier that I mentioned earlier.
So he's got this thing tucked inside of that same carrier he was wearing earlier. Is that fair to say?
That's right.
Is this a weapon, or I guess maybe, would you call this a weapon?
Yes, sir.
A dangerous weapon?
Yes, sir.
Was this dangerous weapon visible to the public?
No, sir. I did not see it on my first contact with him. We stood face to face.
When was the first time you were able to actually see it?
Once he was under arrest.
What other items, if any, did you recover during this search?
There was a pair of nunchucks, wooden handles. Then there was it looked like a small rectangular eyeglass case that would fit a pair of small eyeglasses, but once you pulled it apart, it was two knives. Don't recall the inches on how long the blade was.
So you're describing, and I do have some photos here. Did you take photos of these once you got to LPD, or was that someone else?
I took photographs.
Did you take photographs of them on the rulers?
Yes, sir.
Would you recognize those photographs if I approach you with them later today?
Yes.
Realize I haven't marked these yet, Your Honor. Wish to approach with what has now been marked as People's Exhibits number 1, 2, and 3, Your Honor.
Commissioner Panther.
All right, first things first, Officer Murley, just flip through those 3 photos there for me, and when you're done, just look up. Recognize those photos?
Yes, sir.
What is, let's start with People's Exhibit number 1 there. What's in that photo?
This is the object I'm calling a folding sickle.
Let's flip to People's Exhibit number 2 now. What's in that photo?
This is a picture of the 2 knives that I guess when they're sheathed together, they overlay to create one solid black. It looks like a small eyeglass case.
So now the way you're describing them sheathing together, am I to understand that these 2 blades kind of fold together and connect in the middle?
Correct. So the black handle portion allows for the other blade to rest inside of it. So they will meet at the middle, so the knives are protected.
Let's switch to People's Exhibit number 3 there. What are we looking at in that photo?
A closer image of the 2 knives at their full length. on the ruler.
Based on your training and experience as an officer, why would you take photographs of a blade next to a ruler like this?
We take the photographs with the ruler to document the size because a knife over 3 inches is.
Are those knives over 3 inches in that photograph?
Yes, sir. Just fair.
What about the sickle?
Yes, sir.
And where were those knives recovered from exactly? I think we might have missed that.
They were on Mr. Holland's person.
Were they visible to the public?
They were on this as the public
When was the first time you saw them?
once he was under arrest.
Did you take a statement from Mr. Holland? Or did you do anything else on this case aside from assist in the recovery?
I just assisted in the recovery.
Fair enough. All right, thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions. Permission to approach the witness and retrieve the exhibits.
Yes. You can publish the exhibits.
Oh, yes, Your Honor. I apologize.
Were they officially admitted?
Oh, at this time, we would move to admit people's exhibits number 1 through 3. Your Honor.
Objection.
No objection.
These exhibits, people's 1, 2, and 3 are admitted.
Officer Merlick, when you first come into contact with the person you've identified here as Mr. Holland, it was your testimony that you did not see any weapons on, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did not notice any holsters or anything along those lines?
No, sir.
And you didn't, when you called other officers, you did not report that, hey, we may have a weapon situation or something?
No, sir.
And when you showed up on scene, you stated he was already in handcuffs at that time?
Yes, sir.
So you did not see specifically where he got arrested? Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And this 1225 West Michigan, that turned out to be the residence of Mr. Holland, isn't that correct?
That's what I was told, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect, Your Honor.
I thank the officer. I'm not going to make excuse. I'm sorry, Merlick, is that it?
Pellegrino.
Most certainly.
Thank you.
I'm calling Officer Pellegrino next.
Yes, Your Honor. People call Officer Armando Pellegrino. This is the one I'm gonna have to play the body cam from evidence.com for, Your Honor. It isn't downloading on the Wi-Fi.
Sounds good.
Go ahead and log into your Zoom room.
Until I see. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury. Yes. Okay, you can have a seat. If you can state your first and last name and spell both.
Armando Pellegrino, Armando, Pellegrino, Pellegrini.
Whenever you're ready, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just joined the Zoom room, so I can get started. Good morning, Officer Pellegrino. Thank you for being here. Are you currently employed?
Yes,
Where?
the Lansing Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the Lansing Police Department?
I'm a little over 5 years.
What is your current rank and assignment?
I'm currently a canine handler assigned to the patrol unit.
How long have you been assigned to the patrol unit? The whole time you've been there?
Correct.
It's all 5 years?
Yes.
Okay. What are your general duties as a patrol officer?
To answer calls for service.
What does a call for service mean to someone that's not a cop?
Sure. When someone calls 911, I respond to those.
Were you employed in that same capacity with the Lansing Police Department on July 24th, 2024? Did you respond to the location of 1225 West Michigan Ave?
Yes.
City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan? Why did you respond to that location?
There's a call a couple streets south of that Officer Merle was handling. And by the time I got near to that, he said that he was good, he didn't need me. And then a different officer, Officer Brooks, said that the subject that was causing issues for Officer Merle was also the accused and a crime he was investigating earlier today. Gave the description, and I had located him at the mission address.
And was any information provided to you about whether or not this individual had an active warrant for his arrest?
Yes.
Did you verify that information?
I personally did not, because it sounded like all other officers already did, and I didn't really need to like double check the word.
Fair enough. So it was your understanding he had a valid warrant for his arrest?
Correct.
Who is this suspect that we're talking about? Do you know their name?
Justin Holland.
Do you see that person here in court today?
I do.
Did you interact with that person as part of this investigation?
Yes.
Could you please identify them by an article of clothing they're wearing?
Sitting by, I don't know with the ledger on.
Please let the record reflect Officer Armando Pellegrino has identified the defendant.
No objection, Your Honor.
Identifications noted.
Would it be fair to say you were the first person to make contact with him at 1225 West Michigan?
Yes.
What happened when you made contact with the defendant at that location?
I entered my full mark patrol car in full LP uniform, and I called out his name Justin, and then he responded, "What's up, buddy?" I approached him until he had a warrant, so he was under arrest and told me no. And then that taking a brief struggle before placing him in handcuffs.
When you're telling him that he's under arrest, what are you trying to do?
I grabbed onto, I believe, his right wrist, and I said, "Put your hands on your back," and directed the warrant, and he told me no.
Let me rephrase. As an officer of the law, when you tell someone that they're under arrest, what are you doing? Are you commanding them?
Yes.
Were you under the impression that this was a lawful command you were given based on the information you had?
Yes.
Were you dressed in a full police uniform?
Yes.
Marked patrol vehicle?
Yes.
Would it be obvious to those around you that you are an officer of the law?
Yes.
So when you gave this lawful command telling the defendant that he was under arrest, what happened?
He told me no and began to pull away from me.
What do you mean by pull away from you?
Took his arm tensed up and tried to pull his arm back to the center of his body.
What, if anything, happened after that?
I ended up pulling him down to the ground. He lost his balance and fell down. And then after that, he kind of just went passive. And then myself and Sergeant like security handcuffs.
Did you search his person or anything close to him?
Not fully conduct a search of him, no. I did observe like a ballistic vest that's similar to the one that I wear to patrol. I observed like multiple like knives and like other weapons and stuff like that concealed within the pouches of it. But the actual search itself was conducted by Officer Miller.
And when you say that those knives and weapons were concealed within the pouches of it, would those be visible to the public? What do you mean?
They're like within, I wish I had my patrol vest. There's like a holster and then there's a flap that covers over it. So I wouldn't say it's completely visible to the public now.
Now, let me ask you this way. Do you wear a body worn camera when you respond to things like this?
Yes.
Is your body worn camera active and recording at this time?
Yes.
Have you reviewed your body worn camera before today?
No.
Have you seen it at all?
When I was writing the report, I watched it, yes.
Okay, so you have seen it before?
Yes.
Would you recognize that body worn camera if I showed it to you again here today?
Yes.
All right, I think at this time, I'm just going to go ahead and move to the admission of what would now be People's Exhibit number 4, Officer Armando Pellegrino's body worn camera.
Any objection?
No objection.
This was admitted.
Permission to public, Your Honor.
Motion granted.
I know I have fast forwarded a little bit in this. I'm starting at the 29-second mark on the video. It's 19:25:59 on the body worn camera dated July 24th, 2024 for the record.
Justin, what's going on? Can I help you? I just don't want to. I don't want you walking up behind me. Thanks.
I was just asking him about cutting my grass, man.
Okay. It sounds like you got some warrants, so you're interested. You put your hands behind your back for me.
Oh, fuck off, man.
Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. Lansing, please put your hands behind your back now. Put your fucking hands behind your back now.
Just relax, dude. Here you go. I got a stupid warrant for not paying a fine, dog.
West Michigan one in custody.
Jesus Christ. So I didn't pay a fine, so it's that serious, dude?
Or when the police tell you to put your hands behind your back, you should probably listen, yeah?
No, leave me alone, dude.
How do you get this off?
Dude, I will tell you if you would just leave me alone. It's a stupid vest. It's a funny joke.
Okay, well you have like all sorts of like tactical gear on it.
Yeah, it's got nunchucks in it because that's funny. And stupid shit, dude.
Okay.
Why are you guys messing with me, man?
You have warrants.
I understand, dude. I have to pay a fine. I've been trying to save up some money so I could pay a fine.
Can you help me get him up? Ethan? He's got like
I see that.
a conjunction of like weapons. They're like all looking like satchels on it.
Yeah, dude, I could take this off if you would just let me take it off.
Well, I asked you to put your hands behind your back and you told me no.
No, leave me alone, dude. I don't have a reason. I'm in my yard. I didn't do anything wrong.
Disconnect on the other side?
Yes, it'll take off my shit.
No idea how this guy's here.
This is stupid, dude. You guys really... Are you choking me right now? Are you choking me right now?
He's got something like that.
Choking me right now.
No one's choking you.
No.
No one's choking you.
Hey, stop gaslighting us.
I'm not, dude. Just leave me alone, dude. I have to pay a fine. I went to the store to buy a fucking pack of cigarettes.
He hasn't been completely searched, Ethan.
Yeah, I have
It's
fucking knives.
Just to
and shit on
get
me.
that off of his spine.
Yeah, man. These are my...
Rather than watching the entire 8 minutes remaining on your body cam, Officer Pellegrino, what, if anything, of importance happens after where we left off?
After that, Officer Miller takes the vestry itself and puts it in the trunk of his car, and then he starts actually searching through it, and that's when he finds like all the weapons that were concealed within the satchels and malware on the vest.
And since court reporters don't type down what's on that video, can you just briefly summarize what we saw on People's Exhibit number 4?
Can you phrase that?
So the body camera we just saw, the court reporters don't type down things that are played on a video. So could you please, for the record, just summarize what we saw on what was just on that video?
Sure. I approached the accused, told him to put his hands on his back, told him no, grabbed by his arm, began to pull away, ended up pulling him down to the ground. And then once he's on the ground, he secured his handcuffs, got Sergeant Vikings and myself. Rolled him up to his he's laying on his side, rolled up to his, so he's sitting on his butt, facing up. And then we begin to try to take the vest off of him. And then after that is when all the weapons and stuff like that are revealed that were concealed within the vest.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Good morning, Officer Pellegrino.
Morning.
You testified that you responded to 1225 West Michigan, correct?
Yes.
And that was because that was the residence of Mr. Holland, correct? That's where you were directed?
Incorrect.
That's incorrect?
Yes.
Okay. Why were you directed to that location?
I was not specifically directed to that location. I happened to be driving around the area and I observed him standing outside that house.
Okay, so you saw him standing outside that house,
Correct.
but you weren't aware that that was his residence.
Correct.
All right. And then based on what we saw in the video, you arrest him in the front yard of that location, correct?
Correct.
And, all right. No further questions, Your Honor.
No reading room.
Thank you, Officer Pellegrino. You may be excused. Any other proofs today?
No, Your Honor, no other witnesses. We're ready to proceed into argument.
defense calling witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the defense does not intend to call any witnesses in this matter.
Argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. As Your Honor is well aware, and I can also, for the record, can publish People's Exhibit number 4 to the bench if you want. I know there was a little bit of lag with the Wi-Fi there, it caused a little stop and start in the video. But as Your Honor is well aware, we're here for preliminary examination for this individual, the defendant, Justin Holland. He is my obligation today is to prove by a probable cause standard that a felony was committed and that this defendant is the one who committed it. Specifically, I have to prove that carrying concealed weapon in counts 1 and count 2, and resisting and obstructing an officer in count 3. The location of 1225 West Michigan Avenue has been testified to on the record. The venue of Ingham County, Michigan has been testified to. We have heard ID from both officers, as well as information from officers Brooks that he has dealt with this individual before, and he had a valid warrant for his arrest due to a larceny complaint. The date of July 24, 2024 has also been testified to on the record. Your Honor, admittedly, this is not our normal carrying concealed case. This is knives and a sickle. So it was originally charged as a 7.5-inch machete in our complaint for count 2 of carrying concealed weapon. I think I would move to amend that to be a sickle based on the testimony that we had today. Regardless, Your Honor, looking at Michigan Criminal Jury Instruction 11.2 for carrying concealed weapon, dangerous weapon. First, I have to prove that the defendant knowingly carried one non-folding stabbing instrument, 3.5-inch non-folding knife, which Your Honor has a photo of up there with her in People's Exhibits 2 and 3, and a dangerous stabbing weapon is what I'll call it, the 7.5-inch sickle that Your Honor also has a photograph of, People's Exhibit number 1. Does not matter why the defendant was carrying the weapon, but to be guilty of this crime, he must have known it was a weapon. Second, the defendant did have both of those items concealed on his person, and complete invisibility is not required. Your Honor, I also pulled the Michigan Criminal Jury Instruction 11.4 for the definition of a stabbing weapon. A dangerous stabbing weapon is any object that is carried as a weapon for bodily assault or defense and that is likely to cause serious physical injury or death when used as a stabbing weapon. Your Honor, I do understand there's an exception to these rules built into the jury instruction for when someone is carrying concealed on their own property. Simply because Mr. Holland was arrested at his own property doesn't mean that was the only place he was carrying concealed. That exception does not apply in this case. As the testimony clearly showed, Officer Merlick interacted with this person on the West Allegan block, over away. I didn't actually testify to exactly how far, but away from this location that is his home. He was in public, he was on a bicycle, he had a tactical bulletproof vest, or what was described as a tactical vest, with pouches all over it on his person while on the west block of alley. Starts causing problems, starts arguing with the officer, and Officer Merlick tells him to just go over. Then the information comes in after Officer Merlick puts out a description of this subject, that he has a valid warrant for his arrest, so they follow up. By the time they follow up, the defendant is now at his house. We've seen the body-worn camera for Officer Armando Pellegrino, which brings me to the resisting and obstructing charge under 13.1. First, the defendant either assaulted, battered, wounded, resisted, obstructed, opposed, or endangered Officer Pellegrino, who was an officer of the law. Second, that the defendant knew or had reason to know Officer Pellegrino was a police officer performing his duties. Third, that Officer Pellegrino gave the defendant a lawful command, was making a lawful arrest, or otherwise performing a lawful act. There's a valid warrant for his arrest. Element 3 is checked. There on the body cam, right there, we can see the defendant pull away, resist after being given a lawful command by Officer Pellegrino, who's dressed in full uniform, and tells him, Lansing Police, put your arm behind your back, Lansing Police, put your arm behind your back, and he doesn't. More importantly, as soon as Officer Pellegrino tells him he has a valid warrant for his arrest and he's being put under arrest, he tells him to fuck off. So that's resisting, obstructing, all the way down to the ground until his body was searched and everything was done. Regarding whether or not, and the argument of whether or not he was on his property carrying concealed, Your Honor, Officer Merlick saw him with the vest on the West Allegan block. Officer Pellegrino shortly thereafter then sees him at his home now with the same vest on, in the same clothing, with a bicycle, the same bicycle Officer Merlick saw him riding on. Then weapons are discovered inside of that bulletproof vest, carried concealed, not visible to the public or anything like that. So I'm not sure if we're supposed to think that he just went to his house and then put those things in the pouches, or what's going on here, but it's rather obvious that we've circumstantially proven, certainly by a probable cause standard, those weapons were in his vest when he was in public. He was carrying concealed all the way at the West Allegan block, and then the interaction happens at 1225 West Mission.
Your Honor, contrary to what we heard from Mr. Markarian, Officer Merlick testified something very different. He testified, yes, I did see him at that location and he did have a vest on. However, he testified, I did not see any weapons on him at that time. I did not see the holster that was carrying that sickle instrument at that time. He did not, when he talked to people on the streets, he did not hear any complaints of a weapon at that time. So for all we know, he may have just grabbed the weapons when he was at his home. The officer arrived on the scene. We see that there. He is in his front yard. MCL 750.227, the first paragraph. Like I said, it clearly carves out an exception. The last line of it being, except in his or her dwelling house, place of business, or on other land possessed by the person. If they had stopped him and found weapons on Allegan Street, then fine, then we'd have a CCW. But there's no evidence there were any weapons on Allegan Street, other than the speculation of the prosecutor saying that, well, nobody would take off or put something on. Well, as he's approaching, we heard in the film that he's told the officer he's doing yard work. I don't know what he would be doing what he was doing at the yard, cutting things. I don't know. But the reality is we have to have evidence that he did have weapons outside of his property. And in this situation, the evidence was clear that nobody sees any of these weapons until they're on his property. So, well, count 3 appears to be a factual question. I would ask the court to dismiss counts 1 and 2 in this matter, as they clearly fall under this exception. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Your Honor, the reason why officers didn't see the weapons, I would argue, is because they were concealed on about his person, which is a violation of carrying concealed weapon, dangerous weapon. Officer Pellegrino also didn't see the weapons until he was able to actually search his person, pull them out, and that's how they found them. So I'm not sure if the argument is that he didn't have the weapons on him at all or what's going on here, but clearly the reason they didn't see them is because he was carrying concealed in public away from his home and then went to his home. And you can hear the defense from the defendant himself being crafted in the body worn camera. He says, he immediately tells officers he's at his home. He didn't do anything wrong. Now they're arguing it here today. Thank you.
And today was a date set for preliminary examination, and the purpose of the examination is to require the prosecution to put forth sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with those crimes. So this is not a trial. They don't have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. They just need to show more than mere suspicion that the crimes alleged occurred. And the burden is pretty flexible. It's based on the circumstances and evidence as presented during this hearing, and I'll be the sole determiner of credibility at the time of the examination. We got 3 counts here. Count 1 and count 2 are carrying concealed weapons. Count 1 being 3.5-inch fixed blade knives charged together. And then there's a 7.5, it was charged as machete, but now being amended to a folding sickle. And then we have count 3, police officer assault, resisting, obstructing, and then this was charged as an habitual offender for defense notice. Taking jury instructions for the first count at the time of trial. At the time of trial, the people would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, first, that the defendant knowingly carried a dangerous weapon that could be described as a dagger, dirk, stiletto, double-edged, non-folding stabbing instrument, or dangerous stabbing weapon. It does not matter why the defendant was carrying the weapon, but to be guilty of the crime, the defendant must have known that it was a weapon. Second, that the dagger, dirk, stiletto, double-edged, non-folding stabbing instrument, dangerous stabbing weapon was concealed. Complete invisibility is not required, and a weapon is concealed if it's not easily seen by those who come into ordinary contact with the defendant. And that the instrument or the item was, or that the defendant knew that the item was in the vehicle or in the, or he was carrying or keeping the instrument with his knowledge. We had testimony from two officers, one first being Officer Ethan Merlick from Lansing Police Department, and then we had testimony from Officer Pellegrino, both from the Lansing Police Department, and their testimony has to be taken in totality if we're going to align the facts. The first testimony from Mr. Merlick, or Officer Merlick, that is, was that on January 24th, 2024, he was dispatched ultimately to an area of 1225 West Michigan. However, he indicated that he was originally in the area of the 1100 block of West Allegan due to an unrelated property damage call. When he identified a subject on a bike, he heard some commotion and that there were a large amount of, or there was large bulky clothing being worn by by this subject, I should say. And that he specifically identified another, in his words, white and blue plaid shirt in a tactical vest, that there were people in the area that appeared to be upset that the defendant was riding around harassing people. The officer stated that there was another officer that indicated that this subject matched the description of a trespassing subject from another matter where that subject had active warrants. Officer Merlick testified that Officer Pellegrino was the first to make contact with the defendant at the area of 1225 West Michigan Ave. Officer Pellegrino testified that he made contact, that he gave a lawful command. He was fully identifiable as a police officer performing his duties, and that when given that command, that the subject, who both he and Officer Merlick identified as a defendant in the courtroom today, that defendant being Justin Holland, refused that lawful command, and that officers had to employ some force to take him into custody. The defense is arguing that as to counts 1 and 2, the carrying concealed weapon, because Officer Merlick had seen Mr. Holland earlier, but testified that he did not see this tactical packing or bag or whatever the defendant allegedly was wearing, and did not see any weapons, that count 1 and count 2 have not been sufficiently pled for the purposes of today's examination. However, we had testimony again from Officer Pellegrino that when he took the defendant into custody and that the defendant's belongings were searched, that's when they were able to recover the items listed in Peoples 1, 2, and 3, which were two knives of over 3 inches, as well as a farming sickle, and that the defendant was taken into custody. That was displayed in court in People's Exhibit 4, which was Officer Pellegrino's body cam. The defendant was approached while in the front property, which I don't know if it's clear if that was the defendant's property or not, but let's presume that it was his property. He's standing there with a bicycle after reportedly having been seen by another officer riding around on a bicycle. and within a short time frame of each other, allegedly harassing individuals. The argument by defense that Mr. Holland could have gone into his home and gotten these items then and was on his property with these items. It's possible, but it's also possible that he had them on him when the officer saw him earlier in the area of West Allegan, and there was a report of some commotion and harassment to people in that area. And so that would then create a question of fact for a jury of fact. The court is satisfied based on the testimony that there's sufficient probable cause on counts 1 and 2, and that matter can be bound over to resolve any questions of fact before a jury. Count 3, police officer assault, resisting, obstructing. The jury instruction would require that the people prove at trial first that the defendant either assaulted, battered, wounded, restricted, obstructed, or opposed, or endangered Officer Armando Pellegrino, who was a police officer. And this includes the use of threat or threatened use of physical interference of force or a knowing failure to comply with a lawful command. Second, that the defendant knew or had reason to know that Officer Pellegrino was a police officer from the Lansing Police Department performing his duties at the time. And third, that Officer Pellegrino gave the defendant a lawful command and was making a lawful arrest or was otherwise performing a lawful act. The video displayed the interaction alleged to have occurred between Mr. Holland and Officer Pellegrino. Officer Pellegrino in that video clearly announces Lansing Police Department. You have warrants, put your hand behind your back, to which the person identified in that video as Mr. Holland returned comment saying no with some expletives, and the officer returned some expletives, and there was some force that had to be deployed in order to take Mr. Holland into custody. The court is satisfied that there's sufficient probable cause as to count 3. So all counts as amended, at least in count 3, will be bound over to the circuit court for further prosecution. Bind over date is going to be October 30th. And that's the date the circuit court gets the file from the district court. You do not need to appear in the circuit court on that date. Do you understand that, Mr. Holland? Okay, your next court date will be a pre-trial. In circuit court, your attorney will be made aware of that date, okay? Your address has not changed at the time of your arraignment, is that correct? Has your address changed?
I don't know the address you have. I did recently move from
The address we have is the address of the incident.
I'm sorry?
The address we have is the address of the incident.
Yes, I moved from there.
What's your address?
160 Grand Manor in Grand Ledge, Michigan. It was Grand Manor Drive.
And your phone number?
It was 391 9953.
It's area code
517.
Okay, bond in this matter was set at 5,000, 10%. That will continue. Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing from the people.
Nothing from the defense, Judge.
Thank you. You're all set. And it's not carrying, you can get your exhibits.
think we're gonna have a waiver on Swindell McCollum now. Would you still want to run the PA 53 hearing on that?
It's the PA53 or multiple jail calls.
Yes, sir. To be fair, I haven't spoken specifically with Mr. Feigelson about that, but it's my understanding he's not gonna plead guilty to that.
We'll wait for Mr. Ferguson to come back.
Mind if I go check with one of my officers on that case first?
Okay, sounds good. And what are we doing with Darius Coleman? Is Darius here?
That's the issue with Wayne County that was emailed about with Ms. Wandy. I don't think he got brought over.
He's in Wayne County.
Yes.
She doesn't, he was picked up to the system.
He was not picked up because there was no red, but they couldn't verify that. He was in Wayne County. So, he did call this morning. Okay, we set that.
Okay.
We've got an issue with it.
What?
On the record in the matter, the people of the state of Michigan versus Quandell McCullum at file 23-03167 and 24-02346. Appearance, please.
Morning, Your Honor. Case Mark Aaron is hearing on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Stephen Feidelson, hearing on behalf of Mr. McCollum, standing to my left this morning.
Okay, today's the date that was scheduled for preliminary examination on both files, and then there are PA 53 violations on both files that he needs to be arraigned on. Okay, I have a complaint of violation of conditional release and indicates that there's reasonable cause to believe that between the time frame of August 21st, 2024 and October 3rd, 2024, the defendant has violated the conditions of his release by making several jail calls and video calls to the victim while housed at the Ingham County Jail. These are the same violations of both violations.
They are, Judge.
Yeah, so you have the right to have a contested hearing on these violations and have the prosecution put forth evidence to establish beyond a reasonable doubt if in fact your conditions of release were violated. You have the right to be represented by your attorney at the time of that contested hearing. Found to be in violation of your bond can be revoked pending resolution on both of these files, and you can be facing contempt of court, a punishable maximum penalty of 93 days for each violation. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, how does you want to proceed?
Your Honor, Mr. McCollum, do you wish to have a hearing on this, or do you wish to enter into an admission of guilt?
I can hear you.
I'm lost, Your Honor. Like, he have confused me all day, so I don't know, but I get what you're saying. I did. I don't think I can
confuse you all day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna advise you of your right to remain silent. I don't want you to say anything that could be used against you. I just want to know how you want to proceed. So you can have a hearing on the violations, or you can plead guilty to the violations, understanding that there is the penalty attached to guilt if you plead guilty. You understand that? Or are you confused? Sorry?
Guilty.
You want to plead guilty to the violations?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Okay, so the violations again allege that there are allegations of phone calls from the jail to Tamaris James. I think at the last time I saw you, which was in August, there was allegations of about 227 calls. As to those violations, you want to plead guilty?
The cause?
That's what the allegations are, that you made calls and violations of the no contact order to the victim or the alleged victim while you were in jail.
Yes, Your Honor.
You want to plead guilty to those?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand that you have the right to have a hearing and to have testimony put forth or evidence brought forth to establish if you were guilty of the violations?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you want to waive your hearing? Do you want to have the hearing or no?
I'll have it done.
Do you understand what's going on?
I do, but last time I was here, Your Honor, not to be rude, the prosecuting attorney had brought him up saying that I had said something that I did not say in the conversation.
Okay, well, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the allegations that you made calls to the alleged victim and whether or not you want to maintain your innocence and silence as to that and require them to prove it? Or did you want to admit to doing it?
I did it. I'm guilty.
You're guilty of violating the bond conditions? How are you guilty?
We have talked on the phone since the 21st.
Okay, in violation of the order from the court for you not to have contact?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you knew that you were violating your bond conditions?
I didn't think, no, I wasn't. thinking.
You didn't think that, you didn't know that there was a no contact order?
No, I thought I had to be out, but
You
now.
thought you had to be out of
Yes.
what?
On bond. I didn't know like calling from jail was gonna get me in trouble. I'm guilty.
The allegations that I have here in this report are that from August 21st until October 13th, I saw you on August 22nd, reminded you of a no contact order, and you are looking me in my face telling me that you thought that you could make phone calls from jail. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
You believe that you were appropriately making phone calls to the alleged victim? Or you knew you were violating your bond conditions? You did, even after you saw me on the 22nd? When I told you you can't have contact? And I told you you can't have any phone calls, and I revoked your privileges? You still thought that? Okay, so how did you violate your bond conditions?
I'm talking to you.
When you knew it was a violation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, did you have family members call her?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, there were no three-way calls?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody threatening you to get you to plead to these violations?
No,
Okay, anybody promise you anything if you pled to the violations?
Your Honor.
Any other factual basis?
People are satisfied with the factual basis.
So is the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, the court is satisfied with the factual basis as to the bond violations, and I find the plea to be freely, voluntarily, and intelligently made. What are we doing on the underlying matters?
My understanding, we're gonna waive that exam, Your Honor, both of them.
Judge, I believe that's correct. I know Mr. McCollum, I believe lockup did express a desire to waive, but he's also down in lockup and up in the courtroom this morning has advised me. I think he still wishes to waive, but I also think he's got some concerns whether he wants to have me or retain his own attorney. So I'll defer to Mr. McCollum as to whether he wishes to earn his exam or waive his exam.
Mr. McCollum, you have the right to have a preliminary examination. You have the right to have witnesses called and evidence put forth by the prosecution to establish if they even have sufficient probable cause that these crimes were committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with these crimes. You understand that, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to have your exam?
Good that I do.
You have the right to have them. Are we prepared to have it today?
You're all right. Admittedly, there's a couple officers that had training at noon, and it's a mandatory required training that did have to leave as soon as I heard of the waiver. I let them know. I do have Detective Kennedy here. We can start the exam. The officers I would need to run victim list with it on though. They are not here anymore.
Okay. If you want to take your officers or your detective's testimony today to begin it, we can do that and then continue.
Yes, sir.
And then it's your intention to hire an attorney? Is that what you want to do?
I don't, my counsel, he seems like he's not ready, so I don't know. He got me nervous and I don't.
He seems like he's not ready.
Yeah. like
Ready to do what?
to
To have your
defend
exam?
To defend me, to have my exam, to do anything on the borderline to help me. And that's why I thought a defense attorney is supposed to be.
I agree. He's here to defend your constitutional rights and protect you and present any defenses if there are any defenses. You also have the right to have competent counsel, which he is competent. I don't know that you're providing me information to believe that he's not haven't provided you effective assistance of counsel. You're not prepared for an exam today?
I'm prepared to run the exam. I think the concern is he's not thrilled with the advice that I'm giving him, Your Honor.
Okay, just because you disagree with advice doesn't mean he's not prepared. So is that the issue? You disagree with the advice he's giving you?
I don't get none of the advice he's giving me.
You don't get it, you said?
No, I don't understand.
Okay, so there's a breakdown in communication, meaning whatever he's saying, you don't understand. Or is it that you disagree with what he's saying? Because there's a difference.
I'm hearing that my attorney is telling me 10 years. That's what.
Well, the maximum penalty, he's telling you the maximum penalty, that, what does that have to do with the advices? And I don't want to know what your conversations are. Actually, in file number 23-03167, you're facing, in count 1, 20 years, but it's charged as an habitual offender, fourth offense notice, which could enhance your penalty to life if you're convicted. And then in the other file, you have assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder or by strangulation, 10 years. Another assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder or by strangulation, 10 years. Police officer assault resisting obstructing, 2 years. Again, habitual offender notice has been attached, so that will enhance your penalty if convicted, again, to life. So 2 separate files where you have a whole lot of time that you're facing. There's a lot at stake, a lot on the line. And so I don't blame you if you want to run your examination because of all that's on the line, but you need to do that after you have had a conversation with your attorney that you understand. You don't have to agree. He can't waive your exam for you, only you can waive it. It's your right to waive. And if you want to assert your right, that's what you should do. Assert your right, I want to run my examination. Now, if you are saying you just aren't understanding each other, that's different. Do you think you should have a further conversation?
I believe we should.
Okay, well then.
I can leave the courtroom, so they can have a private.
Judge, some of what he's getting at is, I had a conversation with Mr. Pfeiffer yesterday, who's gonna be handling the case in circuit court about some preliminary discussions about a plea deal, and I think that's where he's getting some of that information from.
Okay, so an offer that was made to you with the penalty or sentencing cap of 10 years, maybe?
Not necessarily an offer, but.
Negotiations.
Yeah, we're.
Okay, so there's some negotiations that are pending, maybe that you all are talking about. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with whether or not you want to have your exam, unless they're saying that that offer is offered to you today and it expires at the exam, but it doesn't sound like that's happened.
That's correct, Your Honor.
I haven't communicated with Mr. Pfeiffer about that. So
Yeah, there's not been an offer yet. So sometimes the prosecution can extend an offer to you, but the offer is only open to you if you take it at this level versus waiting to see if this case gets to circuit court. You're not in that position. You don't have to make that decision right now. If this matter makes it to circuit court, it sounds like negotiations can still or are still ongoing, and then there may be an offer, and it sounds like your attorney is having discussions that would put you in a range for plea negotiations. Not saying that you have to plead, because again, you would have to give up rights to plea. It's up to you if that's what you want to do. But it's customary and it's his job to look into negotiations. And if there's an offer for you to plead guilty and waive rights to something to avoid going through the prosecution, he'll bring that to you, and then you make an informed decision, meaning you understand the evidence that's against you, you understand what your attorney is saying is being offered to you, and you are comfortable with giving up your rights, then you can do that. If you don't want to give up your rights, you don't need to. It's your right to have an exam. It's your right to have a trial. It's your right to have a trial by jury, and it's your right to remain silent at that trial. You don't have to do anything. You can sit here and require them to prove it if they want to convict you. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you want more time to talk privately with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. How much time do you think you need? Do you think it's something that you can talk about today, or should I reset it?
No,
Give us about 10 minutes, and we should be able to get them for 15 minutes maybe.
Okay, I don't know. Is one of the conference rooms over there available?
It should be.
Okay, we'll bring you over to a conference room.
So conference room. So
Victims in conference room 2. Okay, maybe see about the library or something. Or let me see, Mr. Blackman is here with Hernandez. On the record, in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Alfonso Hernandez Jr. 24-02400, council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. Case Mark Herring appearing on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Fred Blackman on behalf of Mr. Hernandez. He's in my office on Zoom.
Okay, today's the date and the time that was scheduled for a preliminary examination. My understanding though is that there was going to be a unconditional waiver. Is that accurate?
That is, Your
There
Honor.
is- Yep.
Was it an offer?
No, Your Honor, not at this time. However, I do have some language that I need to correct that will correct upon bind over as a part of this waiver.
Okay,
Would you like me to do that now?
you can place that on the record.
Yes, Your Honor. So this is currently charged with delivery and manufacturing 50 to 249 grams. However, upon review with both Mr. Blackman and the officers in charge of this case, there was only 33.75 grams in total recovered. So we'd just be moving to amend, and we will correct the information upon bind over to make that more accurately charged delivery and manufacture less than 50 grams.
That's accurate, Mr. Blackman.
It is, Your Honor.
And so the people want to waive their exam as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hernandez, do you understand that you have the right to have a preliminary examination in this file?
Yes.
You understand the purpose of the exam?
Yes.
You have the right to require the prosecution put forth evidence here at the district court that would establish that they have sufficient probable cause that these crimes were committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with the crime. You understand that?
Yes.
And you wish to unconditionally waive your right to an examination?
Yes.
Anybody threatening you to do that?
No.
Any promises being made to you if you waive your exam?
No.
You understand this waiver is unconditional, and if the matter is bound over, you can't get there and decide, you know what, I don't like my offer, I don't like how this is going, I want to have my exam. Once you waive it, it's gone. You understand that?
Yes.
The bind over date is October 30th. That's the date the circuit court's going to get the file from the district court. You do not need to appear in circuit court on October 30th. Unless for some reason Mr. Blackman makes a motion for you to be rearranged at circuit court, then you need to appear. But absent any of those motions, you won't appear in circuit court until a pretrial date is scheduled. Your attorney will be made aware of that, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, bond was set at 7,500, 10%. That will continue. Any additional matters for the record?
Nothing from the people.
Nothing for the defense, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're all set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
two-day jury trial.